I'm excited to bring you this episode today because it's a little bit different of an episode that I normally do. I decided to kind of do an episode on the fly while I was actually stepping into courage and braving the hiking trails with my two littles by myself. Turns out my friend and I were supposed to meet up, but we both had our times or our wires crossed. So I was already saddled up and loaded up and had the kids in the truck and ready to go. And I not only had my 2 under 2 strapped to me, one on the front and one on the back, but I also decided to take my 3 dogs. Call me crazy. But it was fun. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I still followed through with connecting with nature and felt like that's what I needed to fill my cup for the day. Granted, we didn't do anything horrendous or 3+ miles, but I felt inspired while on our hike to pop in an earbud and start a recording for the podcast because it has been a busy week of traveling. And I actually was at a podcasting summit last week, and I talk about that a little bit in the episode. And I do apologize. This is a very raw, unfiltered, messy episode. And I'm actually not even apologizing because I'm trying this on for size to see if maybe a more live time episode content is what the listeners would like. I've done a lot of batch recording. I'm coming back from this podcasting summit. I have a little bit of inspiration and wanting to try some things on for size to see how it works out. So please let me know the feedback. The one thing I do apologize for is that there is about 30 seconds of wind where you cannot hear what I was saying. And it's ironic because I started to say how messy this episode was and the wind, and my son was coughing in the background. And so it was actually funny that you couldn't hear all the things I was explaining that was going down because the wind and how very, again, unedited and raw this episode was. So that's basically what I was saying during that 30 seconds of wind. You'll hear mountain bikers, you'll hear coming by, you'll hear me saying hi to people on the trails, you'll hear our dogs splashing in the water. One dog does bark in part of it, so apologize for the loud screech of a bark, but I hope you like it because it's kind of real life. I feel like hearing the water trickle in the background and the birds chirping, and I hope you can connect with that and understand the inspiration that came behind this episode. And yeah, I'm excited to share with you. I do have my notes actually in front of me. A few of the wonderful takeaways that I received from this summit was that to understand what your dream is, because our dreams are our direction. It is the thing that brings us alive. The dream precedes the resources. So having the courage to chase the dream and never being attached to needing an outcome, I think was one of the biggest takeaways for me, because I feel like that's kind of the reason why I started this podcast. And this podcast has definitely led me to a lot of great, incredible opportunities. And it's only been a few months, and saying yes to a podcasting class and saying yes to a podcasting summit with a baby 2 months postpartum, I feel like was part crazy, especially the morning I went to fly out for this event. Like, what the fuck am I doing? Came to my mind several times the morning I actually flew out. And I'm so glad I overcame that fear or that doubt that morning, because what a great experience it was. And yes, it was scary to do the thing, and it was uncertain and not knowing what I was doing or stepping into, but I truly felt like it was such a blessing to persevere and push through, especially because so many women came up to me saying, gosh, what an inspiration you are. One gal was pregnant and doing a few months and said, oh, you give me hope I can do this with my second too. And so many women said you're leaving such a good imprint for other women to have the courage to do things for themselves. And kind of in the episode, I talk about like motherhood doesn't define you. It's just, it's a part of you, but it doesn't define you as a person. So I'm so proud of myself for going on this journey and stepping into courage with following my dream simultaneously while being a mom. And giving yourself permission to start it's okay to not know who you are or where you are. Self-discovery is a part of the process. You know who you are when you question, if that was too much, am I going to lose followers? Am I going to make someone uncomfortable? If you're doing the work, it has to be controversial. Some people won't like it. And I feel like that's another takeaway that I talked about in this episode. I truly feel like this podcast is not for everybody, and that has kind of taught me to overcome the fear of rejection, or somebody might not like it, or I might have a bad review. And I think that we're so conditioned to fit in a box sometimes, and we're not all the same. And it's okay if we all don't agree with each other or have the same perspective. That's what this beautiful world's all about, like to have different perspective and opinion and creativity, things that light you up, and creativity. I just think, like I said, if I wouldn't have stepped out of the box a little bit, like I've got questions like, how do you have time to do a podcast? And it's for me, and I'm learning how to show up so much messier than I did in the beginning. I think perfection stalled me so many times when starting this podcast and I kind of got in a little bit of a dip with it, like, oh, I gotta be sitting at my desk and at my microphone. And so that's kind of why I brought this episode to you, to try on for size, to see if this kind of is more in alignment with my voice and what I'm meant to share with you guys. Another huge takeaway that I received from this podcasting summit was something that I've struggled with for a long time when it comes to coursework or sometimes just life in general. But instead of thinking that you're behind, maybe you're actually ahead. Something that I've been reminding myself of lately is that you're exactly where you need to be. All the parts of you and this journey you are on have led you to where you are today. So basically, like, I feel like if I wouldn't have become a mom, I wouldn't have started a podcast, or if I wouldn't have chosen a certain path in my life, I wouldn't have ended up where I am. I feel like this is for everybody. I feel like all of our life's experiences lead us to where we're supposed to be. And I think sometimes we get caught up in the comparison game, or comparative suffering. So I think, it's just good to remember, like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be today, tomorrow, the next day. Like, it's already all laid out. It is what it is. And I think to get caught up in I should be doing this, or I should have already been there, or no, you're on your own path, you're on your own journey. And I think that was one of the good takeaways for me in this podcast, and motherhood and life from this summit, was like, I am exactly where I need to be. Another thing that I received from this summit was that I am keeping myself small because it is comfortable. We're addicted to the comfortable, even if we are not where we're meant to be. And I think that is such a good takeaway from, like, a big fish, little pond kind of analogy. Like, I'm staying small on purpose because I'm afraid to know where it's going to take me. I mean, I went to a podcasting summit in LA with a 2-month-old baby. I feel like I owe it to myself to take this podcast seriously and to see where it could go, and not say no to opportunity just because I want to stay in this comfortable familiar of staying small. And I think another thing was like a bless and release process, like bless it and then release it. If it doesn't work for you anymore, it doesn't work, and that's okay. And just to kind of remind myself, like, blessings come and they go, and just to also be able to release when something's no longer serving me, I think is going to help me through this, not just this podcasting process, but life in general, and motherhood and all the things. Another thing I think I was doing was putting pressure on this podcast when I started. Like, again, having that expectation of it should be this way. And another awesome takeaway was putting pressure on it is not successful. Try it the other way. Don't be available to do it hard. Like, if it's not easy and it doesn't flow well, then why put pressure on it to make it harder than it needs to be? And I think that's why I'm bringing you this episode again. I'm trying these new things and these applicable tools that I learned from this summit to try it easy. What comes with ease and flow, and and creativity and make it something I enjoy, because I do feel like I did kind of get in a little bit of a dip with my podcast, just because I was trying to make it harder than it needed to be, especially in this season of life where I have 2 kids under 2. I mean, there's not enough hours in the day to try and let perfectionism overcome my podcasting experience, my mothering experience, my life experience. Like, it's just not manageable. I hope this authenticity from me allows for transformation, not only for me, but for you, to maybe give yourself the permission to just be authentic with your true self and what feels good to you, versus like the should narrative or the could narrative. Like, just do what feels good and go with that and trust your gut. And I think that's something I also do talk about on this episode. Once you do eventually dive in, I have a few more takeaways that I just would love to share with you. One of my favorite takeaways, and kind of the theme of this episode and these takeaways that I'm sharing with you, I had a lot more notes than what I'm sharing with you from this summit. But if you keep doing fun things, the next idea will come to you. So I do feel like while I was hiking, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to pull my phone out and start recording and see what happens. And definitely was not perfect. There is no such thing as perfect, but I am so glad that I did it, because I was having fun with my sons. I actually feel like I was supposed to meet a friend and it didn't work out for a time. We just got our wires crossed with our times, but I actually met 2 moms on the trail. One had a 2-week-old baby and one had a 6-month-old baby. And I stopped and talked to them, and they said, wow, look at you, you're doing it with 2, and you have dogs and all the things. And it's like, I wouldn't have stopped and talked to those women if it wasn't for my friend not showing up. So while sometimes we feel scared to do something that sounds fun, or we don't want to do it by ourselves, I still did it. And I actually exchanged numbers with one of the gals, because she mountain bikes, and she's like, yeah, once, I'm more healed, like, let's get on the mountain bikes and go for a ride together. So I just thought that was an awesome experience. Right before I started recording this episode, was like, yeah, that wouldn't have happened if my friend would have showed up, and we would have just been talking on the trail and maybe exchanged hellos or whatever, but wouldn't have exchanged numbers. So I think just continue to do something fun or bring joy to you. That's going to be my challenge for you this week. And I do say it in the episode, like, I'd love for you to share whatever that is with me on Instagram or on my email. I would love to just hear what did you do that might have been a little scary, but it also sounded really fun, and it brought you joy, because I think we take life too serious sometimes, and it's not meant to be all serious. And that was actually literally one of the notes I took as I was talking about that. I looked back down and I said, there's a note that says, never take yourself so seriously. We're all so full of shit. And I think that is so true. That rings so true to a lot of us. Like, and nobody thinks about you more than you think about yourself, like, ironically enough. So it's like, just who cares? Like, just do the thing. Nobody cares what you're doing. Nobody's watching you the way that you're criticizing you in your own head. Okay, and this is probably my last takeaway, but it definitely resonated with me, because I'm an adventure gal. I love being outdoors. I love hiking. Obviously, I'm literally hiking on this episode that I'm sharing with you with my kids, and I love skiing and outdoor recreation, all the things, camping. Somebody said, and again, this kind of goes back to like the comparison game, and that can get you really stuck, is like, think about if you're hiking up a mountain, and all you're doing is looking up. And so you're comparing yourself to the people who, like, all these amazing women that were at this podcasting summit, like the Cathy Hellers, the Stephanie Gasses, the Jacqueline Snyders, everybody the amazing women that were at this podcasting summit, Veronica Romney, Jordan Gill, Tracy Matthews. And I think something that we all get so stuck in is like, look, when you're looking up the mountain, you're comparing with the people who have already been where you are. And those are not the people that you need to look at. You need to look at the people at the bottom of the mountain who need you to lift your helping hand up to them. And that is your audience. That's who you're talking to. I want to help other women. It's not the women that are motivating me and inspiring me to get, hopefully, to where they are one day. It's to help the women that want to get started or don't know where to start or don't know how to choose the joy that lights them up. I think, like I said, there in the episode, we're probably going to pivot this podcast in a little bit of a different direction. And I'm excited to see where that goes. But that's to help better serve the women that are at the bottom of the mountain that haven't even gotten started yet. So I'm super excited to share with you guys over the next few months kind of how I'm going to mold and shift this podcast a little bit. I think it's going to be for the better. And I'm super excited to help those women at the bottom of the mountain. Another amazing takeaway that I did have from this summit was that some things are hard in life. And if they weren't hard, it wouldn't be worth it. Because I do feel like when you're in it, it's hard. It's like, oh my gosh, the walls are closing in on me. This is overwhelming. But then you look back and be like, man, I got through that. Like if everything were just handed to us, if life was just handed to us on a platter, like would that be more fulfilling than actually doing something hard and getting through it and overcoming it and achieving it? And again, I think, courage over comfort, I think that plays so well into the theme of this podcast, or what the theme has been of this podcast. And I would much rather know that I'm able to survive that or get through that versus just have it, oh, well, life's easy, and I think that makes you appreciate the good and the joy and the happiness and all the positive things in life that life brings is the hard things. So I really enjoyed that takeaway. And we have no idea the effect of what we put into the world. I feel the ripple effect. I feel like we, and that's why I'm doing this. My voice is serving other women. I did say in this episode, once we finally jump into it, this is probably the longest intro I've ever done for a podcast episode, but I did want to share some of these takeaways with you when I got home and was able to look at some of my key notes. But, is that I said I'm doing this podcast for myself. Yes, and I'm doing this podcast for myself because it brings me joy connecting with other women, but I'm also doing it for other women. I feel like connection and community is so real, especially after COVID era and kind of isolating, and even I feel like motherhood when you're just kind of in the thick of it. It's like bedtime routine, nap time, got to get down, you're kind of a little bit isolated in a sense. So that's kind of why I'm doing this podcast, is to put this out there for other women to receive it and to feel like they're not alone, because I do feel like it is a ripple effect and it does take courage to put yourself out there. And I did talk about this takeaway in the episode coming up, but I wanted to make sure I had it adequately stated, that we have the choice to choose between authenticity and belonging. And when you choose belonging, you end up belonging to no one. And 99% of people choose belonging. So I feel like to authentically be able to show up as yourself and do what brings you joy and makes you happy is what the other people in this world want to see. That's what they want to receive from you. It's not some made up fake version of yourself. And I think the way you find authenticity is to do what makes you happy and brings you joy. It comes from inside. It doesn't come from any kind of external monetary thing or thing. I think that we all get wrapped up in that. And I think that you have to be willing to set down the ordinary to have the extraordinary. And I think part of doing so is to be showing up in authenticity with your full whole self. So when I showed up on this hike, ready to do this all by myself, unload the dogs, unload 2 kids, get them strapped to me, and however I was able to do that by myself, which I did, I think I was authentically living in alignment with myself by getting out in nature, because that's what was calling me and that's what I needed to. And again, I'm from a small town. I live in a city. I see high tension power lines from my house. I see roofs of my neighbors from my backyard where I'm standing right now watching an airplane fly into the airport. This is not in alignment with my truest core nature of myself. And one day I hope to be living back in the trees, in the forest, because that's what makes me happy. But for now, I have the Foothill Trails about 20 minutes away from my home, and I'm blessed to have that. And that's what I did yesterday. I authentically showed up for myself. And I'm super proud of myself for not limiting, creating limiting beliefs around being a mom and not being able to serve that part of myself, because I think that's super important. And the last takeaway I want to share with you is when you do spend the time with God, nature, universe, source, whatever, it is considered to you, is that He will meet you, and He will lead the path for you. I am here at the right place at the right time. And I think, again, going back to one of the takeaways, you're right where you need to be. And so I think honoring that space for myself, I was right where I needed to be. And that connection I made on the trail, maybe that was right where I needed to be. And who knows where that connection can lead. Maybe it can lead to a great friendship, or friends, her baby is friends with my baby down the road. Who knows? It's just, I think opening yourself up to possibilities versus having a scarcity mindset or a fixed mindset that's closed off and disconnected the possibilities are endless. So I hope that you enjoy this episode. Again, I feel like this is literally the longest intro, tenfold, that I've ever made. So, I hope you enjoy. Welcome to the Kindred Journey podcast, the podcast where women share their experiences of stepping into courage when comfort is no longer an option. This is the podcast for connecting in community with women who have been shaped by the liberating to challenging seasons that life endures. I am your host, Leslie. I am a wife, mother, daughter, sister, and friend. I too have experienced these seasons in life, and I want you to know that you are surrounded by a community of courageous, real women here for you. I can't wait to connect, so grab your favorite beverage and join me on this kindred journey. Good day, everybody. I am currently switching things up. I am out on a hike with my 2 littles and my 3 dogs. At first I thought I was crazy, but I'm glad I'm doing it. So I apologize if I'm a little winded at some points, but it's a beautiful day, and I just wanted to speak some inspiration to everybody. I recently just got back from a podcasting summit. It's been a busy week, so this is my episode to you guys this week. I was meaning to get one out, so I am trying something new. I am doing a live time recording. I batch recorded several episodes before my second son was born, and I have those. Still excited to get those out to you, but felt a calling and inspiration, like I said, by one of the speakers at the podcasting summit, who records her podcast while she's on walks, and more of a lifetime episode versus a batch recorded episode. So I wanted to just kind of share some of the things that I learned at this podcasting summit. And this last week and a half, I traveled with my 2 under 2, and my son is actually going to turn 2 in a couple weeks. So, and yeah, it was a lot of a learning experience with traveling, and motherhood becomes a part of you. Excuse you. But it doesn't define you. And I think that's one thing I learned, because I did actually take my 2-month-old down to this podcasting summit in LA with me, and left. Graciously, my parents were able to watch my toddler for me, so I was able to do this. And kind of the reason why I started this podcast was to fill my cup in a season where I couldn't do the things that I used to in my old chapter of life. And I am currently enjoying this. Yep, have a good one.
enjoying this season of motherhood. And some people say in the trenches, and I think I've mentioned on previous episodes, I want to shift that narrative because it's not. And I do feel like when I had my first son, I feel like I was grieving my old identity or my old life a little bit when it came to the things I used to do, and mountain biking, skiing, all the outdoor recreation that I used to enjoy, paddleboarding down the river on a whim. And I can't, I still can do those things. It just looks a lot different than it did before kids. And so I think that's kind of the message I want to drive home today with you guys is, like, I'm still out here doing the things that I used to enjoy at a much different capacity. And this is super messy and super uncertain with the wind and the coughing and the bike zooming past me saying hello to everybody on the trail. But that's life, and I think it's appreciated, especially in this space, and as vulnerable and authentic as people have showed up in this space for you guys. So I want to say some things are... Yes. Thank you. We're going to be kind of switching up a little bit. I definitely received a lot of wonderful messages from this podcasting summit that I went to. A lot of incredible, inspirational speakers. And it doesn't even just relate to podcasting. I think a lot of the teachable moments relate to life in general. And I'm super excited to just kind of pivot with what's most in alignment with me. And this felt like what is most in alignment with me is speaking to you in nature, because I feel like nature is home to me and it fills my cup, and I feel like I've kind of been avoiding it a little bit with this season of life with littles. Like my oldest is just getting to that age where he wants to be outside more, and I feel like when he was a baby, keep him out of the sun, keep him protected, all the things. So and he's singing in the background right now, so great tone, honey, great tone. I'm just super excited about living life authentically. And like, I showed up to this podcast summit with my baby in tow, and people were like, good for you to still come with a baby, 2 months old. And I feel great. I feel like, I've flown with I've done this before as far as motherhood goes. So like, it's not all new and scary, and giving a lot of people grace in this season that sometimes maybe they don't have for themselves. So I think, and I left, of course, my notes are at home, so I'm hoping that I can kind of remember off the cusp of my head. But, it talks about like fear and like, who cares what people think of you? We always put so much, I think social media has kind of conditioned us to care what other people think, even if we don't, even if it's not in alignment with us, we'll try and belong, right? I think the statistic was like, we either are authentically ourselves or we want to belong. And 99% of us want to belong and feel included and feel like we're a part of something versus being authentically us. And that is like, and if you don't belong to yourself, you don't belong to anybody, is what one of the speakers said. And that really spoke true to me, because I feel like this podcast is in authenticity with myself. And this season I'm in, like I said, I kind of grieved my old identity and my old life a little bit when it came to having kids. And so that's where most of this inspiration for this podcast came from. Was I love connecting with other women and able to do so from this capacity and nap time or whenever I'm able to get a recording in. And so, yeah, I think kind of just embracing it and leaning into it versus like resisting it, because resisting just takes energy and it doesn't allow you to authentically show up as yourself in the best capacity. So I thought that was such a beautiful takeaway from the podcasting summit. And all these brave women have such wonderful stories, and I met so many wonderful women that I have been in my podcasting class with, and I'm getting ready to start a different kind of podcasting class. So I'm just enjoying learning and trying something new, because I feel like as adults we don't tap into our creative enough. I think and having kids in young age is so amazing and inspiring for me to do that. And I really feel like this podcast is my creative side coming out in its true form, and I'm enjoying it. So I hope this episode, I just wanted to hop on here and say I'm so excited in the direction that I'm headed with this podcast, and I hope this live and on the cusp kind of interview inspires you too to still do those things that fill your cup and bring you joy, because life is always, that's part of life, right? Like the curveballs, the ups and downs, the 2 under 2, that's part of life. And so I feel like if you can still create the space for yourself to enjoy the things that fill you up, that's super important. And it's going to carry you so much further than you can imagine, versus saying, oh, I'll wait until my kids are older, I'll wait until this, I'll wait until that, I'll wait until I'm ready. It's like you're already ready. I think Cathy Heller was the host of this podcasting summit. I think she said you're riper than a banana ready for banana bread. Like, you're ready, And so I just love, like, you're not going to know unless you do the thing. And I think, we talk a lot about courage on the show, and it takes courage to start a podcast and put yourself out there and put your voice out there. And yeah, not everybody's going to like my voice or what I have to say, and that's okay. I've accepted that. And I think I've learned a lot with putting this podcast out as far as fear goes, of what others think of you, and what you're saying or what you're doing. I'm doing this for me, and that's what matters to me. And I'm going to continue doing it, doing what makes me happy and bringing me joy, and connecting with other women and sharing other women's stories, because I feel like that's what matters. Connection in community with other women. I'm so lucky to have these women in my life, and the women that I've crossed paths with on this podcasting journey wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have put myself out there. So I do truly feel like what an inspiration for myself. At least I hope it might be for you guys. So if there's something that you're thinking about doing, or something that brings you joy that you've been putting off, please go out and do it. And share with me. I'd love for you to message me on Instagram or send me an email. I'll put all of my links in the show notes for you to connect with me and share what you've done this week that's brought you joy. And these little kiddos, while they bring me so much joy, I still have to fill my cup at the same time of being their mom. So anyways, I'm going to hop off here and finish this hike. I'm going to let my little toddler get down actually out of the pack. I have one in the front and one in the back, and give my back a break. So I hope you guys have a blessed day and enjoy the sunshine, hopefully, wherever you're at. You want to say bye? Say bye. One more time. Bye.
Thank you for joining me and listening to the Kindred Journey podcast. If this episode resonated with you, please consider taking the time to rate and review the podcast, and share this episode with family and friends who you think might enjoy it. Your positive feedback helps me reach more courageous women like you. This is my passion project, so without you, I wouldn't be here doing this, and I deeply appreciate your support. Until next time.